Good evening. Design Review Board 2 public meeting of January 14, 2010 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker's cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current DRB agendas are available by calling our DRB hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and DRB reconsideration appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the DRB decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. Roll call. Mr. Baladian?
Here.
Mr. Garagos?
Here.
Ms. Sakai?
Here.
Mr. Zarifian?
Here.
Mr. Malikian?
Here.
Report regarding posting the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside of City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on January 7, 2010. Oral communications. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on an item not a part of this agenda? Seeing none, we are on to our review calendar. Staff does have one brief announcement.
Good evening, and welcome to our first DRB meeting of the year. I wanted to mention that last Tuesday, January 12th, an item went before the City Council regarding windows and review of windows, primarily replacement windows. We have been directed to take that information out to the stakeholder community groups that are interested. But please feel free to look online, because once we do have that outreach done, we will come to you to get your opinions. Also, upcoming on January 26th, there's an item on the City Council agenda regarding green building. So the windows was on a special meeting calendar for January 12th, and then January 26th will be a green building item to the City Council.
Thank you. I guess we have to open it and open the project.
Right. We have nothing on consent. We have one regular agenda item.
So I'll go ahead and open the project 2, PDR 2009-072-A. Any motion?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion? Any thoughts? Anyone wondering why we're here only for this little storage? Anyone?
There are more people than the pieces of the project.
If you're inclined not to have me do my presentation or talk with the applicants, that's fine.
Yeah, me too.
The staff report had 2 conditions and then 1 consideration. Are you fine with those 2 conditions and that 1 consideration being?
Do you want to go over those conditions so public can hear that, and we can?
Sure. The first condition was landscaping in the southeastern portion of the site shall be further augmented to reduce the visibility of the storage structures from nearby properties. Landscape plans showing this augmentation shall be approved by the Community Planning Department. That was the first condition. The second condition, the storage structure shall be painted in olive green or similar with approval from the Community Development or Community Planning Department, and shall be repainted when necessary to maintain appropriate appearance. And then the third was a consideration. The board should consider requiring an increase in the height of the southern property line wall to at least the height of the storage structure from the southeast corner of the site to 50 feet west. That was the consideration. Are y'all clear about what that consideration is?
Yeah,
Yes.
I was actually out there, went by there today, and the only comments I had, I think the wall one would be a good idea, and I questioned the olive green. Actually, there's a color on the wall that's a slightly darker than their storage bin, and I think if those two colors match, the wall,
Yeah.
the cinder block wall match, the storage
Okay.
container would probably be better than olive green. That would
Okay.
be my.
Yeah, I agree.
I had the same thought.
It should just
But
flow
I
right in
was kind
and
of like
disappear.
green or leave it more like the wall color, which is
Yeah.
kind
It's a
of.
little darker, right? It would seem like it was a little darker,
It-
maybe.
I couldn't really tell.
Slightly darker,
I mean, the way
yeah.
that the sun's hitting it, it's lighter or darker, but yeah.
I mean, darker I think would be better
Than the wall,
lighter.
yeah.
Okay, so you'd like the color of the storage units to be slightly darker than the color of the wall?
No, same color.
Same
color.
color as the
That's
color they have on the
color.
cinder block now, whatever that is. And I agree that the wall should go up higher. I think it would be good.
Okay, so you think that should be a condition, not a
I think it
consideration?
should be, yeah.
Do we have any
Go ahead
other?
and make the motion.
Make the motion with those three comments, conditions, the three conditions.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
I had a comment or
Mm-hmm.
suggestion for the landscaping in that corner behind the sheds to remove the existing maple tree that they have to make way for the new landscaping so that it doesn't get too crowded, and just use one material that's tall as or taller than the shed structures, and to make it drought tolerant and evergreen.
Okay. Material, you mean a plant?
Landscaping material.
Okay, okay. So do you have a specific, a tree, a shrub? Do you have a specific suggestion or?
I have some, but they don't have to use these specifically.
Okay,
Tristania, or Dodonea, or Carolina laurel cherry,
Not sure.
or juniper.
okay.
I don't remember the magnolia tree. It's funny. Was it a mature one? I don't remember.
It's a
Maple.
Maple.
Was it maple?
liquid
Was it
amber.
large?
And
Was it
it's
large?
it's sort of deciduous, so it's
Okay.
just branches right now, and it matches the rest of the liquid ambers, which is nice. But if you just get rid of that last one, then you can make room for an
Okay.
evergreen, which would screen the storage units.
Okay, so remove,
Oh, again, I'm making a big deal about this, but do you think it would be nicer for the neighbor if it was having the maple tree there as opposed to taking it down?
Well,
Neighbor.
then they would see the storage sheds.
Oh, as a means of letting those grow better, the ones that are surrounding?
I think
Better?
the concern was that the maple tree is deciduous, and so for 30 or 40% of the year, there are no leaves on it.
Right, but do
And,
you think those other shrubs wouldn't work if the tree stayed? I'm just wondering, trying to keep the tree.
Oh, well, the trees would be behind the storage sheds, so if you kept it, it would just look crowded with all the other trees.
Crowded with the other trees.
Or
Okay, that's
Just to have one material as like,
Okay.
a buffer.
I was just trying to keep the tree, that was all.
I know, but they can
Are
maybe
you
switch the
okay
tree
with
out.
that?
Yeah, that's
Would you
fine,
want
that's
to
fine.
amend that?
We
Okay.
amended to include that, yes, please.
okay, so remove the southernmost maple tree and replace with a landscape material that is as tall as or taller than the storage structure's evergreen.
An evergreen, yes,
Okay.
and drought tolerant.
Bless you. All right.
And
second?
we have concurrence on
Second, I
that
second.
consideration. Okay. Okay, a motion was made to approve the project with 4 conditions. This will be a roll call. Mr. Garagos?
Yes.
Mr. Zarifian?
Yes.
What's the fourth?
Perhaps the chair would like to ask the applicant if they have questions or concerns about the condition or have any comments.
I don't think they raise, I mean, are you guys okay?
We'd love a chance to.
Oh, sure.
Before you vote on, if this is.
No, absolutely.
Voting on it,
I didn't
have
think,
some comments.
oh, sure. I didn't get a card, so I didn't think you would,
Right here next to the secretary.
oh, I see.
Oh.
Okay, I apologize. Well,
So I'm sorry if you didn't get it.
no problem.
The secretary, so.
Sorry,
It's okay, no, no.
it's right here.
Okay. Is it Lyle Hudson?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Would you like to come up?
Yes.
Can you state your name and address, please?
My name is Lyle Hudson. With Hudson & Partners, we're the applicant for the project. We are the architect. Board members, staff, thank you very much for being here tonight. I see we're the only one on the agenda. I don't want to make it certainly a long agenda. But I do have, after reading the staff report and listening to the comments, I think my first note was why green, and I think you already answered that one. There is no other structure on the site that's green, and And I would say I would like some clarification on the wall color. It is tan now, or a cream color, that very closely matches the wall of the block wall at the property line, but not the building wall. So I want to make sure that we're matching which wall we're matching. The building itself, which is block wall,
I was thinking of the north side of the southern wall.
because the
Near the
north-
container.
Property line
The
wall.
wall that
Property line wall.
adjacent to the...
which isn't seen on the north side of that southern wall.
Basically,
I want to,
basically
Drive on the side
north
street.
side of this wall.
When you drive on the
Whatever
side
is
street, you
facing
look through
the
the
park.
when
gate.
you drive on the side street facing, so that's the one you, not screening from the parking lot from the neighbors so that
No,
they
no.
see that. Okay, because that's totally
When you're
different.
driving on the side street, you look across your parking lot.
Right, okay.
And see it in a
To match,
jet.
because the block
a
wall
wall right
of
at the
the
end of
property
the
line does
driveway.
not match the building, so,
End of the driveway, whatever as you drive the
correct.
Yeah, because
Okay.
when you drive on the side street, you see the container with that wall. So
Okay.
it's just to make the two consistent.
Okay, that I would have to agree with. The second item was
raising the block wall.
raising the block wall. Of my understanding, that's a 6-foot-high block wall now, which is permitted. If we increase it, and I don't know how we increase it, because I'm not sure we can add 3 courses of block to that existing 6-foot-high wall with the footing and such that's there. If you give me some direction on how you'd like us to add on to it, I think that's maybe more appropriate discussion. And in addition to that, I think we have a height requirement. Otherwise, we'd have to have a variance to increase the height of the wall. So I just want to be clear, you're asking us,
Well, I think to answer that, I think, first of all, you don't need a variance to raise the height in a commercial zone of the masonry wall along the property line.
I'm sorry, I was
question?
concentrating on this.
His first question was, does he need a variance to raise the wall from 6 to 8 foot in a commercial zone? I don't think you.
No, and I thought the wall on the plans was already shown at was listed at 8 feet. Maybe I misread the plans, but I thought it was 8 feet.
Yeah, it says 8 feet.
I think it's...
It may be 8 feet from the other
The
side.
side.
It's, yeah, there's...
Yeah, they're lower.
We have a grade difference and makes it probably certainly 8 feet from the other side, and all the adjacent properties are different heights. So
So to answer your question, as far as getting a variance, you're not going to need a variance. If it's not 8 feet, and I believe it was a consideration and not a condition.
That's how the staff.
And
Yeah, I
that's
put it
how
in-
That's how the staff wrote
That's
it.
how we put it, so as a consideration.
No,
So
I put it
if-
in as a, I put it as
They-
a condition.
You
Excuse
put
me,
it
but
as
it
a
was-
condition. Okay, so then it is a condition. So in that case, either you have to underpin the foundation or, take the section out or maybe even put another wall next to it, bring it up to the 8 foot, I don't know. So there's different ways to do it.
absolutely. All
Yes,
those,
I mean, would you guys be comfortable if it was we're talking about a 2-foot section? Could it be just a straight metal panel that was painted same color? Or is that too?
Panel is
don't
not.
know.
I think
Okay.
just if the landscaping can be taller or as tall as the
We'd be surrounding it at that
yeah,
point.
so why do the wall also?
I could go with that.
Let me interject. There won't be landscaping between the storage structure and the southern property line because that's all paved.
Right.
No, it will be
they-
outside of
well,
it.
No,
right?
no, well,
The-
we
the
won't
adjoining
have
property-
any
Oh,
landscaping
Yeah,
across
along
the-
here.
this is the property
And I
line.
think the key is for us to block the visibility from the residential part of it, which is behind it,
Yeah,
rather
but
than the
where's
commercial.
this maple tree?
That's
on
on the
property,
on adjacent.
on the south
Oh,
wall.
it's
Outside of our
adjacent
property.
to-
This,
Yeah.
this is, I believe, a maple tree that you're referring to in this area.
Yes.
This is the wall that the consideration was addressing. Over here, the property to the south is at a lower elevation than this property. So, while I think the wall may be 8 feet high over here, because this property is higher, the storage structure is actually above the height of the wall. That's what that consideration was getting to. And then Ms. Sakai's comment was the landscaping in this area. This area here now is all paved, so this can't there won't be landscaping in this area.
Where's the children stairs over there? I mean,
There's no stair.
what is that?
This right here?
Yeah. That looks like access.
Can I answer that? I'd be happy to answer that for you.
Yeah.
There is a parking lot directly to the south. There's building for part of this area we're talking about along that southern property line. It's mostly building. And then the last part, parking lot matches parking lot. At one point in time, there was a stair access from the parking lot of the property to the south to access the property that's currently owned now by Subaru. Not sure why that was done. It's been when Subaru purchased the property and the prior owner had it locked off, had it bolted off, and I don't even think it's been operable for a while. But regardless, there's no point in having that between the two properties. So there is a stairwell there, but it's 4 or 5 steps up to.
What's happening in the area just south of the bin, between that and the southern wall? What's happening right in there?
There's no space.
There's no
It's like
there's no
literally
space there.
up
It's right
the
up
wall.
against the or close, not right up against it, but we poured a new pad to put. Previously, this container sat in the parking in the landscape area. Excuse me. So we moved the container onto a pad that was outside of the landscape area, restored the landscape area that was covered by the storage pod to landscape. So we converted that area back into landscape, moved the pod into an area where it's now a concrete pad. So it has something level to sit on, and you can access, and it doesn't get undermined by the.
I didn't actually make it
I
back.
have
but
a
what is the
solution. I have a.
What's the distance, though? One second. What's the distance between the bin and the wall?
I think it's only a couple of feet, isn't it? It's,
Okay, so it could
if
support
if
something.
that, it's only a foot or so.
If we change your condition to say, because right now, what I'm understanding is you have an 8-foot wall, and if I'm not mistaken, and I don't want to be an engineer, but as an 8-foot wall engineered, fence wall, you would have a substantial foundation there. So if he can prove or find out by placing the 2 additional courses without impacting the foundation, and if it does, get a letter or some sort of a recommendation from the building and safety or something that says he cannot add without beefing up the foundation, or the existing foundation is adequate enough to carry the 2 additional courses, then he would go ahead and do it. But if in the case that he would need to update the foundation, beef up the foundation, then it'd be consideration.
Can
I was just going to make it
to that?
simpler and say, listen, if there was a 1.5 or 2 feet, or if you could just slide the bin enough to put a planter there, then I'd rather see the landscape buffer. So if we just ran the same
so
landscape
what
around
you're
the
saying
side.
is cut off
Sock
the
a piece there and
piece
just plant in
plant.
the interstitial space.
The only thing
I don't know that that's possible
the-
because
You have a parking
the
situation.
pad is not very much wider than the storage structure, and to move it north a little bit.
I didn't actually get into the back. I was just looking from the street, so
Plus, I
it
think
appeared like there was
the southern
space.
property, they have an area where they can put the plants. They have where the tree is growing. That's a planter. They could put plants if they don't want to see it.
Yeah,
But there's two. You're talking about two. Excuse me. There's to the east is residential. To the south
commercial.
is commercial. So to replace the magnolia tree, which I think works well with the liquid ambers, it's in season with the rest of them, and introduce an evergreen into an area where we have no other evergreens is a bit disruptive, I think, to the landscape and the continuity of what's back there and what the neighbors will see, because that's what they're seeing from the side. If the intent is to screen it from the commercial aspect, then putting a metal extension on top of the wall would be nothing more, personally, than seeing just the top of the metal shed. I don't think that works. I can tell you that along that southern property line, there is a grade difference, and we've removed about 60 to 80 lineal feet of that wall because it was failing and falling over. And there is an area behind where there have been some homeless activity, and the owner, Subaru, didn't want any chance of having something fall over. So I can tell you that based on the soil conditions and what we've already had to remove, the exact same wall, just further down the property line, highly unlikely that that would be able to support an additional 2 feet. And it may seem like 2 feet, but that's 3 courses of block, which significantly changes the footing size as you go up exponentially from footing standpoint. We can certainly provide an engineering report to that effect, but I think that's maybe going down the wrong road. I'd rather
I would
devise
rather
a
see
solution of
I'd rather
what
be a
we're trying to
landscape
do.
solution. So, I mean, if that was possible, I'd rather see a landscape solution. But
Personally, I
were
mean,
you-
that's my opinion. I don't have a problem with it. I think my concern would be is to block the visibility from the residential part. So raising the wall, it really doesn't do anything. You know, you already have the tree right next to it, so if anybody can see anything from the residential part, they're going to be looking at this, and if we do plant it properly, we should be fine. The 2 additional feet, I think the impact of that is going to be substantially higher in the sense that you're going to see a 10-foot wall versus an 8-foot wall.
yeah, no, I would
Actually, I was wrong. A 9-foot high wall is maximum.
Okay, then.
So it would be a foot.
that's not my intent.
Yeah.
I don't mean to do that. I would actually.
So
I'd rather see a
the
landscape.
wall issue is,
So it's not worth it to
That's
do
fine.
that.
Yeah. That's
fine.
Leave it the way it is. Huh?
Can I also mention that the residential just to the east that we're talking about is their garage structure. So there's no residential
Right.
windows or anything else. It's nothing but, if you look on the plan, there's nothing but just a garage, or actually, I'm sorry, the plan doesn't show it, but there's a garage structure that is taller than the container that's, less than 5 feet away from the edge of the container. I'd be happy to show that to you if you'd like to.
But the residential structure is it's a 2-height structure with the windows in the back. And so taking that into consideration,
These were previous of where it was located before. Here's the adjacent property. This was
Lyle,
slid.
you
Right,
need
and
to speak in the mic because they can't hear you.
well, I went to visit the site. So there is a 2-story structure, apartment structure that's located, if this continued along, it'd be like right about here with windows in the back and it
but they're
runs
going to see it
that
anyway,
direction.
right?
So from the back of the windows,
So-
they would see onto the top of the structure, which is why I'm recommending that the foliage be evergreen, so that it just blocks the view of the storage structures, and also the
From looking down onto it or
looking down
straight
onto
on?
it, looking
Because-
down onto it, without
second
having
floor.
impeding too much
Right.
of the visibility for their view.
I-
And I think also that would help for the commercial structure from the southern end as well, because then you'd have more of a buffer from every angle. You have the existing tree on the southern property, on the northern part of their lot, to block the direct view onto the shed, and then you'd have the corner landscaping that would block all the other views from the eastern side.
Go full finish.
yeah, I think, can I?
There's trees and leaves.
I think instead of removing the tree, it would be better to just enhance the
This tree.
Yeah, I think it loses there's a rhythm of trees there that all of a sudden the last one will be missing, right? So you might enhance the landscaping to buffer the views from the apartment unit into directly looking at it. But I mean, beyond that, I'm thinking that this is a shop. I think there are cars being fixed here and all kinds of different things that apartment can be looking at. That. So what kind of difference it makes if you see the storage or not that is newly painted?
Well, and I don't know if I mean, we've certainly made notices to the public, and I don't know if anybody has complained or not. And I mean, as far as what, that's why I think it would be better if it matched either the building color or the color of the wall to be consistent with what is there. And it isn't right up against as it is on the picture. We've moved it away so that the magnolia tree now is there,
Yeah.
and we've actually removed 2 dead trees that were there to create that rhythm along that that southern eastern property line
yeah.
to be consistent with the rest of it, so that those trees have all been trimmed and adjusted to try to match that rhythm, so that we didn't have too many mature, and then the new ones, and we actually put in box trees, so that we tried to keep that character. So I really feel like, although I understand the screening aspect of putting that there, that the introduction of the evergreen, which we've made an effort to remove most of those because of they're dirty, they have presented a problem back there, they were dying. Not that new ones wouldn't, but we've tried to encourage that deciduous growth.
I have
on there.
I have a suggestion. I think probably we have talked about this. If you imagine how much we have talked about a new building, this really exponentially adds up to a very high level. But to make something that I think I'm trying to have another suggestion here that might resolve a lot of things. Instead of adding height to the wall, at the end of the day, it will be higher wall. Higher walls are not necessarily that great, but I think it could be that you might think of a lattice piece that it becomes an extension to the top of the wall that you can maybe the landscaping and take over and becomes a kind of a green top to the wall, and it will be.
That's a lot of maintenance. Because then you get to trim
okay, then
that
forget that one too.
screening on the trellis, and
Then-
you already have
then
barbed
that's not
wire
a-
up there, so you're taking the barbed wire down, you're putting the
I
trellis
understand the
up.
concern that the board has in trying to keep in character with the rest of the community and make sure that this is appropriate for where it is. And I think that's really what I'd have to say, is that this is appropriate for the environment it's in. We put it in the back portion. It's mashed up close to the edge. We're not out in the middle towards the street where everybody is going to see it. It's significantly screened by mature trees. And I think, unfortunately for me, at the end of this project, adding more cost to it, certainly, painting and doing whatever we can at the discretion of the board, we'd like to do that. But I'd also like to ask you to consider where we're at in this effort and what we've done and what we've done for you and for the community in trying to make this the best project that you've seen in a while here on that automotive strip. So, again, painting I'm good with. The additional landscaping, I think that we're just sort of adding something that's really forced in that situation. And additionally, adding to the top of the block wall, I think, is structurally impossible at this time, just from a feasibility standpoint with the cost involved. And then adding, lattice or a metal top to it, certainly the metal I don't think works because we're already trying to screen a metal structure. I would say that we're doing the best we can with screening, and we worked with the planning department on our landscape plan to get it appropriate for that zone. We've given landscape area back to that zone, that 10-foot wide area, and returned that in an effort to try and marry these two, the use of the automotive use, and the residential and the commercial to the south. So with all respect, we'd like to walk out of here this evening as early as possible and be able to come up with a compromise that works for everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay, leave the
Well,
wall alone.
I still think it's appropriate to
Yeah.
put the landscape
No.
material in as screening on the eastern side because
Sure.
it's our
No,
residential
no,
side.
I think it's
But
fine.
to leave the
maybe
south
not-
wall,
But not taking the tree out, right?
Well, but if you leave the tree in, for me, it's still a deciduous tree, and the repetition is along the whole parking area. So to me, it doesn't break it up as much by taking that tree out. And I think if you work with a landscape company, they can take the tree out and exchange it for, 6 or 7 shrubs, and put the shrubs in that back corner. It would kind of serve as a buffer, and since it's a corner, it kind of delineates all the properties anyway. I don't think you're going to.
so you're actually replacing the tree with a shrub?
Yes.
Is that what you're proposing?
With like a hedge,
But
or 2 trees that are evergreen. You don't need a whole lot of material.
I think
back
I would
there.
be comfortable if you replace it with the evergreen trees.
Evergreen trees.
Because the purpose is not to create shrubs that are low and it'll be hidden away from the structure or
You
the
think go
wall
higher up?
itself. I
Well,
think we
higher
want it higher up.
shrubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's why I suggested that the shrubs, the material that I suggested, they grow to about like 15 feet tall.
okay.
So they could go with that method, or they could put a couple of trees back there that are evergreen that would block the view from the second story of the residential complex to the east. And because it would be strange to have the spacing that you have right now wouldn't work with the liquid amber that's currently there. That's why I recommended that they remove that tree to make way for the 2 new trees. And the way it's drawn on the plan, where it alternates or somewhat alternates between the liquid amber and the evergreen tree, which I think is a carrotwood, I'm not exactly sure, is not reflected in the property as it was built. So there's a gap between the two deciduous liquid amber trees where there would have been a evergreen tree.
Can I make one statement to that? Just
Just quick, yeah.
quick statement is that the tree that we added at that point was at the direction of the planning department to put that new tree in, that you're talking about us now removing.
But putting in different trees.
I understand, but just to let you know that you've asked us to put that tree in.
With the specifics, the species that you've placed
Yes.
in.
It was directed at that species and at that location.
And that was as a result of the previous approvals.
For the building design.
Right.
When there wasn't no shed.
And there was no shed.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
now we're trying to screen the shed.
thank you.
Well, I would rather try to keep the tree and add shrubs, but if you think it would be more successful without the tree, then I would go with
Well,
that.
and the other thing is they used a low shrub material along the wall. If they had used a higher shrub material, I could go on board with just saying, take out the two lower shrubs in that corner and continue the higher shrubs like all the way across. So it's one uniform look. But because they're using lower shrub material, it doesn't make any sense to continue that behind a shed where you're not going to get any screening out of it. The little shrubs that they have behind it can easily be moved or taken out. It's the tree that, yes, you'd like to keep it, but at that point, why not take all the material out behind the shed and just make it one thing that screens the shed units? That's what I'm trying to achieve.
Okay.
So,
I think that's a good compromise if we didn't make them do the wall. I think that's an easier solution, trying to mess with the wall. So I would amend my motion, so.
Okay, so your motion now is condition number 1, condition number 2 in the staff report, and just we're eliminating the consideration.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm sorry, and actually, we are replacing the condition number 1 in the staff report with, and I'll read it again, remove the southernmost maple tree and replace it with a drought-tolerant evergreen landscape material that is at least as high or higher than the storage structures.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's good.
and if you specifically, you could also say relocate the two little shrubs. But
Well, I mean, I can
By
write
the
that
law.
in, or, I mean, this is how I compose
it doesn't matter to me.
Okay,
Leave it.
all right. So it was moved to approve the project with those two conditions. Roll call, Mr. Garagos,
Yes.
Mr. Zarifian,
Yes.
Sakai,
Yes.
Mr. Baladian,
Yes.
and Mr. Malikian.
Yes.
Great. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. We have one set of minutes to approve this evening, December 10th.
They're fine. I had no comments on them.
Yes, make the motion.
Do we have a motion?
Oh, I move to approve the minutes on December 10th.
Okay. Second.
I second it.
And roll call, Ms. Sakai,
Yes.
Mr. Baladian.
Yes.
Mr. Garagos.
Absent.
Mr. Zarifian.
Absent.
Mr. Malikian.
Yes.
Okay, great. Motion carries
A
3-0.
walk of shame. Right?
Okay. So, anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, we're adjourned.
This is